The following episode of the Confirmed Epic Podcast is brought to you by BigBadToyStore.com.
And here we go.
Coming from you deep within Castle Frankenstein in the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, it's the long-awaited return of the Confirmed Epic Podcast, the official podcast of the EpicReview.com. Joining me today, as always, is
Jerry Reed, also known as Barbecue 17.
And, of course, I am the real Brad Bell. Jerry, before we get started with our normal episode, let's just talk a little bit about, just very briefly, of why we haven't done this podcast in a while. It's something that me and you both love to do very much. Jerry, what have you been doing in your life that's kept you busy?
Well, I have a daughter, and so a new daughter is now 5 months old. So that's been kind of a new thing. Been very busy, with her, and my regular work stuff has kept me busy, and just, I think we've just had a mixture of things that have kept us from at least getting together and podcasting.
Yes, his newborn daughter, Allie's his favorite collectible since he bought the Resident Evil hot toy, Alice. So, and as for me, the big reason is we've been away from this podcast is I had a rather large load of graduate work to get done, but I'm happy to say I'm finished with that. Started a new career. Got engaged, new job, new place. So we've been really busy, and we know you guys are coming to the site. We love you for it. We appreciate it. And we're going to try to work hard to put out between 2 and 3 podcasts a month for the rest of the year. And it's something we really look forward to. If you're just tuning in for the first time to the Confirmed Epic Podcast, usually Jerry and I start with what we've been checking out. And then we transition into a segment we call Epic News. And then we always have a featured review of the week, usually a movie. Every once in a while it can be a comic book. Maybe we'll even have a featured figure review, hopefully, this year instead of a movie for at least one podcast. And today we'll be reviewing Stuart Beatty's film starring Aaron Eckhart, I, Frankenstein.
I, Frankenstein.
So we're definitely looking forward to reviewing that. But, Jerry, it's been a long time.
It's been a while.
But what have you been checking out?
Well, as we've, I've been working, continuing on the site, lots of reviews, action figure reviews, toy reviews and stuff. And one of the things that I'm doing is working on a lot of, kind of wrap up things, for the end of 2013. I mean, I know we're already almost to February now. But as I've been going through and doing, top 10 lists from last year and stuff, I've also been looking forward to this year. And so I've been thinking about kind of my collecting goals for this year. We're actually doing the podcast somewhere different today. We're not doing it in my study. We're doing it in my hobby room, which, Brad, just take a second and describe what's around you. Describe the atmosphere you're in to our listeners.
Well, it's just this great epic sense of pop culture nostalgia just surrounding every orifice of my body. I don't know how to describe it. It's like an out-of-body experience. No, when I first met Jerry, he told me he was a collector. I was like, I collect some stuff too. I have throughout my life. And Jerry always, when he gives you the tour of his house, he says, we want to see my figure collection. Yeah. He takes you into his study, which is impressive, which is where we usually do a lot of editions of the Confirmed Epic Podcast. And then he says, you ready to see the collection? I was like, wait, this is not it? And you walk in, and Jerry has literally over 2,000 figures in this room, if not
I would
more.
Say, yeah, it's tough to say.
And it ranges from everything that Jerry had growing up to brand new NECA stuff to brand new DC collectibles to a rather large table of Legos. It's very varietized. Well, that's not even a word, but there's a great sense of variety to the room. There's Marvel, there's DC, there's Star Wars, there's Ghostbusters, there's TMNT.
I am looking at a shelf right now that has The Bride from Kill Bill on it, the 1980s A-Team action figures, a figure of the Fawns, a Legacy Megazord, and Samuel Jackson as Shaft. So, I mean, we're kind of all over the place here.
Well, my two favorite things, it varies from my favorite things in Jerry's collection, but right now, my two favorite things that he has done is he has categorized all of his Batman figures and organized them by character.
Yes.
Which makes for a very impressive display of almost 10 shelves, 10 complete, rather large bookshelves. And in his living room, his wife, Kristen, has allowed him in their curio cabinet to make like a 1980s NECA action figure shelf.
There's a couple early 90s. I mean, you've got the Predator 2 trophy wall and stuff like that.
And his RoboCop and Alien and Rocky. I'm trying to get him to get the ED-209 from NECA, which he should pre-order from BigBadToyStore.com.
Yeah.
But, Jerry's collection's something to behold. But, Jerry, back to your original topic. What are your collecting goals for 2014?
So, one of the things that I kind of thought about was, and I do this every year, and I mean, obviously, as much as it probably sounds like, we're not starving or anything so that I can have, He-Man toys or anything like that.
Because of all the millions we're bringing in from the site, right, Jerry?
Yeah, I know. So, one of the things that I had thought about is, I was trying to think about 5 toy lines that I'm focusing on this year. 5 new lines. And then I usually will have like 1 or 2 vintage lines in a year that I'll kind of focus on. So this year, I give myself like a tier system. Like, this is the things that I'm planning on picking up. So, my first thing is, I'm a completist on Masters of the Universe Classics. That's like my favorite toy line that's going right now. One of my favorite toy lines of all time. So I've got a subscription for 2014, so I'm in. I mean, I'm in like Flint. I'm sold on that. Second is my Batgirl collection, because I'm a big Batgirl fan, and a few years back, I realized, gosh, there's so much DC stuff. I mean, there's so many DC statues, there's so many DC trinkets, and I mean, honestly, you just can't get them all.
You want it all, right?
Yeah, but you can't.
And being a DC fanboy like Jerry is, you definitely want them all. But Jerry, you chose to focus your collection. And He-Man and Batgirl, for anybody who knows Jerry, that's like a given for anybody that knows him. He's going to have those. Yeah. I'm more interested to hear what's the next 3.
Okay, so the next thing, the thing that's interesting, obviously, with the Batgirl collection is that's like the one thing I collect that's kind of out of the box in terms of, typically I really do just collect action figures. I'm not really that big into statues. I'm not that into, I read a lot of graphics, but I tend to go with like trades and stuff. I pick up Batgirl stuff that's really varied, So I have all kinds of just weird random things that I can find. Or
everything from like an iPhone case, which he doesn't own an iPhone.
A smartphone, but it was just a really cool case, and it was unique. And so when I decided to go with Batgirl, I really liked Batgirl. I knew I was going to pick a Batman character to focus on. Let's be honest, Batman's just too broad. I mean, there's too much Batman stuff. So I went with Batgirl. It was a little bit more manageable, and at the time I chose that, Barbara Gordon was still Oracle. So I only focused on the Barbara Gordon Batgirl. So there was there wasn't a lot of stuff coming out. Now there's more stuff, which I'm glad. So anyways, so there's Masters of the Universe Classics. Then there's Batgirl stuff. Then I'm going with my 6 to 7 inch Batman figures, because I know the scale kind of varies depending on if, Mattel's putting it out. It tends to hover around 6 1/4 inches, where DC Collectibles tends to hover around 6 3/4.
Will this be, Jerry collects the Arkham City line. He's almost a completist. Will you move beyond Arkham City?
Oh, yeah. This year, I am, some of you who read the site, listen to the podcast, last year I was just really upset and devastated because DC Collectibles was having some horrible quality control issues. I had bought a number of figures that they were either broken when I got them, or they broke within a couple minutes. And you have to realize, I'm not sitting here like, playing with the,
yes, you are.
I'm not sitting here like bashing them together. Frankenstein. No, I'm not doing that. And so
save that for later, Jerry.
Save that for later. So anyways, DC Collectibles, I really kind of wrote them off in the middle of last year and just kept hearing good things. And so when the Arkham Origins stuff came around, Batman Arkham Origins figures, I thought, well, I'll jump in and at least pick up, I wanted the Black Mask, I wanted the new Bane, I wanted the new Joker, and the quality was great. So I've jumped back in, and I mean, they've turned their quality around, and this year they've got coming out, they've just had their Suicide Squad line released. So Harley Quinn, I mean, she's a Batman villain. Deadshot, I mean, I know he's kind of all over the place, but he's been a pretty heavily...
His primary Batman.
Yeah, he's been a really prominent Batman adversary the last couple years. He's been in a lot of media stuff.
If
Gotham Knights.
You bring up Deadshot. I just had to bring this in. Walt Flanagan, who is on the TV show Comic Book Man and does a lot of podcasts for Kevin Smith, his favorite character of all time, anything, is Deadshot. Movies, TV, comics. That's insane.
Really?
Yes. It's
that's
just
interesting.
Interesting tidbit.
I love it when somebody has something that's like super random that they like. I mean, that really interests me when somebody picks something like that. And I'm going to jump back on that little tangent in a second. So 6 to 7 inches. DC Collectibles this year, they've got their Red Hood and the Outlaws line coming out. This is the first Jason Todd as the Red Hood that we've had.
So I'm guessing removable mask. Do you get a Jason
I have
skull?
no idea at this point.
Okay.
Because Mattel released a Jason Todd as the Red Hood, and it was the white and black outfit with a cape that was like in, like one time during Grant Morrison's run. It was not the Jason Todd that everybody was really wanting. So
can I interject a question for you on the DC Collectibles stuff? Now, DC Collectibles, I love their figures. They're just such high quality.
Yeah.
Whereas Mattel stuff, they can do some good stuff. They're movie masters. It's not kid stuff, I would say, but there's just something more of a collectible quality to the DC Collectibles stuff.
Yeah.
Do you find that?
I think that's true. I mean, the biggest thing is that Mattel is pretty much done with their DC stuff in the that 6-inch scale. Mattel really started the DC Superheroes line probably around 2000. Well, they had a Batman line in 2003, and they got the legendary sculptors, the Four Horsemen. That studio came in and assisted with some of the characters in that line, which led to a line that was called DC Superheroes. So you had, some Batman characters, some Superman characters. Well, finally, when there was a lapse, Mattel picked up the entire DC Universe. And so that was their line, DC Universe Classics, which went for 20 waves. I mean, it went for 20 waves, plus there was lots of, tie-in stuff. But their stuff is more articulated than DC Collectibles. DC Collectibles has some figures that are starting to rival them now, but their figures have really good articulation. But at the same time, they reuse a lot of bodies. DC Collectibles doesn't reuse, parts. Hardly any that I can think of. I'm sure there's been a time or two where they've had a repaint. But Mattel reuses stuff a lot. And Mattel's pretty much done. I mean, their focus this year is on DC Multiverse, which are 1/18 scale figures, maybe a little bit larger. There's more a little bit larger than G.I. Joe size. So there are figures that are based on Batman stuff, and actually they got some Superman too. They've got Zod and Superman from Superman 2 in that line, but they're small.
This is the line the Penguin's going to be in.
The Danny DeVito Penguin's going to be in it, but once again, these guys are more 4 1/4, maybe 4.5 inches tall. So they're not really going to fit in with much of
It's kind of like the McFarlane Walking Dead stuff. You just don't know where to put it.
Yeah, there's not a great scale. I mean, I always think 6 to 7 inch figures, if they're in that range, a figure that's at a 6-inch scale doesn't look too bad with a figure that's in a 7-inch scale most of the time. Different characters, you can kind of flub it in your display a little bit, but with a 4.5-inch character, it's not going to work. But Mattel also has a line called Total Heroes, which I've reviewed the Batman on the site. People seem to either really love that line or really hate that line because they're a bit more caricatured. think of something more like G.I. Joe Sigma 6, or kind of a mixture between the Mattel's DC Universe figures and maybe their Power Attack Batman, kind of their evergreen line that's targeted at kids. So, anyways, I'm still doing Batman 6 to 7 inch figures.
What's next on that list?
Batman Legos, because one, there's not that many of them, and two, I really like them.
And they're not too expensive. I mean, I guess when you go into getting the larger sets and stuff, they
can be, but there's just there's not as much. If you focus on it, there's not as much. There's going to be, as far as I know, this year there's four sets in the DC Superheroes line, and I've already got 2 of them, and 2 of them come out later on.
So is that it? What?
Looks like there may be only 4 this year.
Wow,
it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty common. They're not to be that many because they just kind of, it just depends. So I think there were probably only 3 or 4 sets last year too. Sometimes there'll be like a special set that'll pop up somewhere, like exclusive, and then the last thing, Star Wars Black,
which I can't believe Jerry got into this line. We're sitting here a year ago talking about this. And I'm talking about how much of an investment this is going to be for Star Wars fans. And Jerry says, well, Star Wars is just, in general, an investment for Star Wars fans. Because a lot of Star Wars fans tend to get everything. Which Jerry doesn't. He doesn't try to get every Star Wars thing. But you love this series now, huh?
Yeah, I like this. I really, really have enjoyed it. There's some weird issues going on with it at this point. Here's the things I like about it. I wasn't planning on getting too much into it, but I did want the Darth Maul figure. So
then he was hooked.
Well, there was something really surreal about. Star Wars figures have always been that. They're the ones that started that. That 3 3/4 inch figures. They've always been pretty much exactly that size. And then you get this Darth Maul. It came in the mail, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so surreal. And I really enjoyed them. They're pretty high quality. I mean, we're not talking like something, the paint and the sculpting. We're not talking like, NECA level, but we're talking close. I mean, they're close. They're still like.
Would you say close to DC Collectibles?
I would say close to some DC Collectible stuff. So,
and some DC Collectible stuff is out of this world, like the Solomon Grundy you just picked up.
They can be all over the place, but they're really good. I mean, I really like them. I'm happy with them. So I started going into them. There's not that many of them. That's a benefit. I mean, this first year, there's only really been 8 releases. They did have the Boba Fett. It was a Comic-Con exclusive, but they released him as a single-carded figure as well, with only, the only difference being he doesn't have the Han Solo and Carbonite. But
which was a Comic-Con exclusive,
it was SDCC from this year.
And that figure goes for like a crazy amount of money.
It's really expensive just because the box and the Carbonite. The figure of Boba Fett himself is exactly the same. And Hasbro said that they'll probably release the Han Solo at some point as well.
Where does Star Wars Black go? Do you think it goes beyond figures? Do we get into bigger scale Jabba the Hutts? Do we get into bigger scale vehicles? What do you think?
There have been some leaked release lists. People will go over like the computer systems at Walmart and random places. And we've seen some lists that have rumored that we might be seeing...
Some people, meaning Jared.
No, not me.
Just kidding.
There might be a speeder bike and a biker scout coming out, which makes sense.
It's the beginning, then.
That's a pretty, moderately sized piece.
And it displays the figures, like their own full display, not
And then there's been a rumor that a Jabba the Hutt as well.
Is that going to be like, are we talking a Jabba that's close to the Solomon Grundy that you have?
I would say probably. I mean, you got to think, here's one of the things about Jabba the Hutt is you could do a decent-sized Jabba the Hutt, and if they do like a hollow kind of figure, like Rotocast plastic or something.
Yeah, like the old Power Ranger villains.
You could make him look really good, and he could still be pretty cost-effective. I mean, Jabba's not that complex of a sculpt and stuff, so he could really work. But one of the things that does concern me a little bit next year is, this year, Hasbro is... They were doing 4 figures to a case, and they were 4 new figures. First wave was 4 figures, second wave was 4 figures. This year, they are starting to carry over a figure into each wave. So the new wave is only actually, or new series is only 3 new characters and an older one. Which means a lot of people are starting to be reluctant to order a whole case.
It ticked a lot of people off.
Because you're going to end, if you order a case, you're going to end up with a figure that you already have. And they didn't pick to do this and say, okay, well, we're going to package, 2 Stormtroopers in the case, or 2 Sandtroopers.
Which is something that would benefit a collector.
Would probably benefit somebody. They could at least sell it off and know that they're going to make their money back. If not, benefit them because the people like to have more of the troop guys. No, they're double packing they're adding a Han Solo carry forward. So it's kind of like, well, most people that collect it probably already have Han Solo.
So tell our listeners what you did for them. No, we're keeping it a secret.
Yeah.
All right, we have a very special surprise coming down the pipeline at the Epic Review. So we're gonna hold that in the bag. So I apologize. I didn't mean to let the cat out of the bag, Jerry, or the carbonite out of there. So all right, Jerry.
Yeah. So that's kind of my 5 lines for this year. Masters of the Universe Classics, Batgirl stuff, Batman figures 6-7 inches, Batman Legos, and Star Wars Black. And my vintage line that I'm working on is Mighty Max.
All of a sudden, he has an itch for these things.
Well, I've had the Mighty Max things for years. I've had a lot of mine for a long time, but one of our friend of the Epic Review, John Gaither of the Clawful Punch, has gotten into Mighty Max. And him posting stuff about it really got me interested in Mighty Max as well. Have I told you the Mighty Max story about the fireball?
No, go ahead.
And Andrew? Okay, so Andrew sometimes guests on the Epic Review podcast. We were talking, I like to go to some websites where people will post like massive pictures of just parts boxes. Like they'll just dump out boxes of old weapons. Like somebody will find them and say, hey, I found all this stuff, I don't know where it goes to, can anybody help? But I like to go and be like, yeah, that's so-and-so's, gun, and that's like so-and-so's leg, I enjoy that. So I was telling Andrew about this it's been a year or so ago. And
that's the last time we saw Andrew.
Yeah. So Andrew goes, oh yeah, well I've got something, we'll see if you recognize it. So he runs into like his room and he comes back.
This isn't about to get inappropriate, is it?
No. So he comes back and he's got this little fireball in his hand, like a little plastic fireball. And he goes, you ever seen this before? And I grab it from him and I go, oh my gosh, yeah, that's the fireball from the Mighty Max Skull Mountain. And he like threw it and he's like, son of a... And he was just like so shocked, I think, that I recognized this random, accessory that he had.
Jerry, on the first podcast ever, I believe we called him the Toy Guru, and it's the legend.
No, don't call me Toy Guru. And Masters of the Universe Classics fans will know why you don't call him by Toy Guru.
Okay, no, I've heard about the legend of Toy Guru. Okay,
that Toy Guru.
You're right. I should not have called him that.
Please keep listening. I am not Toy Guru.
He is Barbecue 17, not Toy Guru. Just to confirm that, I apologize, listener.
Okay.
Well, I'll talk about my collecting goals.
Pretty cool,
real
huh?
quick.
All right.
Yeah. That was very cool topic. I would say I've really cut the fat of my collection. I've quit collecting Marvel Legends. I've quit collecting any of the Kai Arts Power Ranger stuff.
They're doing such cool... I mean, the new Power Rangers, the Kai Art stuff, they look great. There's something more.
They look amazing. I'd love to have the Red Ranger with the dagger and the shield and stuff. I've cut back on Hot Toys. To give you an example, I had 5 Hot Toys pre-ordered. I had the Adam West Batman and Robin, General Zod, from Man of Steel, Superman from Man of Steel, and Thor from Thor to Dark World, with plans to pre-order Loki from Thor to Dark World, which they just revealed. I canceled all of those but 2. The Burt Ward and Adam West Batman and Robin from the 66 series. I couldn't afford it, trying to save for a down payment on a house and whatnot, just other needs. And I've really kind of narrowed it down. But, Jerry, I do this. It's a very calculated move. Because, yes, I am cutting down on some Hot Toys stuff. And I mainly collect Batman stuff. Yeah. Jerry can testify to that. I have the 89 Batman stuff and the Nolan Batman stuff. And I'll gladly, collect the 66 stuff. Because it was just like most Batman fans, our first introduction to the character. mentioned on this podcast before, my first memory of Batman is watching that in syndication with my grandpa when I was like 4 years old. So it's near and dear to my heart. But my plan is to get the West and Ward Hot Toys, and I want to get the Hot Toys 66 Batmobile.
You need to get it.
And I believe the 89, the Keaton Batmobile from the first Burton movie ran $630.
Yeah.
And this one looks so much sleeker. It's got working headlights and everything.
And
Jerry just said it. It'll hold them. So
hold both of them in there.
And they're it's an open display, whereas you know the 89 is enclosed. So I can have them in the vehicle, but in all of their glory. My only problem, the only thing that keeps me from doing that, and this isn't up for pre-order, but we know it's coming from Sideshow. My only thing is, how do you display something like that? Yeah, on it. Jerry's pointing to this giant table he has, which is true, but I'm paying that much for something. I keep all of my Hot Toys in like enclosed glass, lit glass cases. I'll have to have something custom made to cover that, hard. And that could be very pricey. Custom made glass stuff can get way up there, and
it's tough when you get some larger things to figure out. I mean, the Castle Grayskull, that thing ended up, displaying that open. I think I can't remember the exact dimensions that I gave on my review of it, but I had a whole an old entertainment center that I had, set aside for it, and it hangs off the edges. That thing's massive. So I hear what you're saying. That's gonna be hard for a lot of people to display it how they want to.
But I've always wanted a Hot Toys vehicle. I've been close on the Batpod. I've seen the Tumbler. And I'll be honest, the 89 Batmobile is my favorite Batmobile. However, there's just something about that 66 Batmobile. It's the first kind of incarnation of the car that was ingrained in pop culture and still is to this day.
Well, and you had a good comment there. With knowing that you're getting Batman and Robin, you can fill the Batmobile too. It's open, so it makes a nice display item. If I had the Keaton, the Keaton Burton Batmobile, I would probably, I'd have Batman standing outside of it because you put him in.
That's what most people did.
Yeah, you can't see him, which also looks awesome. Honestly, that.
Oh, it looks amazing.
That's the biggest thing to me to tempt me. If I had an extra $900 just randomly come my way.
Well, it was $630.
Right, but I would have to buy the Hot Toys Batman as well.
Oh, which one? The 66 or the Keaton?
No, the Keaton.
Oh, okay, the Batmobile.
Yeah, okay. The Batmobile. I would buy the Batmobile and the Keaton and just have them on display.
And as far as, smaller figures, I've cut everything out. I'm going to get the Colonel Stars and Stripes. One line from the Kick-Ass NECA line and kind of complete that because I have Hit Girl, Kick-Ass, and the Red Mist. So, however, there's one line of smaller figures I'm not giving up on, which is this TMNT Classics line, which I have the 4 Turtles, and I have Bebop and Rocksteady pre-ordered, which I mistakenly traded to Jim Waugh's Collector's World in Gastonia, North Carolina. We love you, Jim. We love you. One of our former sponsors.
How do you mistakenly trade them?
Not mistakenly.
In a moment of lapsed judgment.
I was in a bind for money, and I canceled my box at Jim's. And this is kind of collecting etiquette. I've been going to this comic book store. It's been 2 different locations since I was in 8th or 9th grade. And now I'm 26 years old. So that's been a while. Over 10 years I've known Jim Waugh in Collector's World. And he's a friend to the show. And, he even passed out some flyers for us. He's always been great. He's a little slow on getting some books sometimes, but he always bends over backwards to get you that book, even if it means it's a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th printing in some cases. Not bashing on Jim here, but... I was tight on money, and I had about, I would probably say about $45 worth of comics in my box. So I traded that. I gave those to Jim, the Bebop and Rocksteady. I said, here, I was in the midst of rearranging stuff, and I said, I didn't have room for it at the time. Thank God I do now. But I gave those to Jim and said, just keep the comics, keep this. We've been doing business. And I thought that was pretty good etiquette. So it maybe was a lap judgment. Pretty good etiquette to just not just sticking with the box.
Yeah.
Jerry's giving me a bad look.
Well, I'm trying to figure out which. So you just gave him the figures, but you didn't take the comic?
No.
Okay.
I didn't. I didn't take the comics. So I didn't trade the figures.
Brad and I were having the discussion about like what is your etiquette when canceling a pull box.
Yes, we had a lengthy discussion.
I have always considered to be good etiquette when you're canceling a pull box at a comic shop. You know, when you have your box there, each titles every month. That when I go in and give them, my notice that I'm canceling my box or removing titles, realizing that there's probably 1 month worth of titles that I'm still going to get. A lot of time, not always, but there's some titles that are still going to be coming in. So I usually expect when I tell them that if they've already ordered the title and it's, because a lot of times you might read titles that they just don't order extras of. If you're reading like Batman, Justice League, they probably can.
Now, I picked up all my Batman stuff.
Okay.
I went ahead and went in and picked up my Batman and my Spider-Man stuff.
So my etiquette is when I think this is Barbecue 17's guide to comic book shop etiquette. If you own a comic book shop, or if you have a better way, send us an email at thepicreview.com and thepicreview@gmail.com and let us know. But I think that you let the comic shop know that you're canceling whatever title's in your box, and then you realize you'll probably have a month's worth of comics, maybe less, that they've still ordered for you, and you finish off what what they'd already ordered. Unless you just randomly give them free toys.
And my etiquette is just don't stick the guys with the books with no compensation, because that's wrong. They've already paid Diamond or whoever the distributor was for the books, and I knew Jim could turn around and sell those, and I believe he did sell those on eBay.
I wonder who he sold them to. Brad, I've got a table over there with a giant blanket on it and two action figure shaped No, I'm just kidding. I didn't buy them. So.
He's just joking. Jerry, I'm very curious about something you checked out this weekend. And that was put on by Heroes Aren't Hard to Find, the giant comic book shop in Charlotte, North Carolina, by owner Shelton Drum. I couldn't be there because I was helping my fiance move across the state because of a new job. So, Jerry, what was Charlotte Minicon like? Because we've always been to Hero-Con, but we've never been to Minicon.
It was really great. First of all, Minicon, I know we got in because my daughter's first comic book convention. We got in free by just doing some donations to a food bank in Charlotte. They were collecting canned goods, or people could make a cash donation of kind of whatever they wanted to. So that was great because they had all this non-perishable items and stuff. We're having some issues with some people were definitely needing a little bit more assistance this year, and there was lots of food stuff, lots of cool items. Lots of food available, for people. So that was neat. It was really packed. It looked like it was in, I don't remember what the place was called.
Grady Cole Center.
Okay, Grady Cole Center. Parking was only $2, which was fantastic. And it, was pretty close by, and that they had like one of the universities was doing parking. And I don't mind paying $2 to park in Charlotte, because usually Hero-Con paying like $15, $20 to park, somewhere decent.
But you get to meet Stan Lee sometimes.
Yeah. So we got there. I will say this really was a comic book convention. There weren't a lot of writers and artists there. There were some really unique, local artists and writers.
Scotty Young was the biggest name there.
Okay.
He writes a lot of the Marvel baby covers. He illustrates them there used to be like a X-Men, X-Babies. But no, he actually does variants where it's the characters as a little kid for several Marvel titles. So Scotty Young's a prominent name. He was the only name they had. And even him, he's not like Mark Miller or something.
There was some cool stuff there, and I'll be honest. Mostly what I was there for was looking at toys and junk. So I left there. I bought 2 of the new Suicide Squad figures there. Found them. I actually bought one of the Arkham City packs, the 2 packs, for half off. So I got it for actually $20, so I picked that up.
What was that?
It was Harley Quinn with Mr. Hammer from Arkham City. I got not superpowers, but a DC Superheroes Riddler on the card. And then I got a really cool, like, an art square that was like a 1966 Batgirl art square. And they're working on it. Ran into a really cool guy named Dan Wilner, who does a website called SpandexSplinters.com. And he carves superheroes and, pop culture icon characters out of wood. And they're really, really cool. Kind of, if you walk into, like, a lot of craft places, you'll see, things where you'll see, like, Santa Clauses or snowmen.
Or sports team
logos carved out of wood. These are superhero characters. And he had some that were just fantastic. Most of them were fantastic. Batman looked awesome. His Hellboy looked awesome. The way he carved in the wood, the Hellboy, was really reminiscent of Mike Mignola's art, especially some of his older art where it really does have that, real blocky, rough look to it. So I was asking him, I was like, man, do you do customs? Do you do, commissions? And he's like, yeah. And so I'm like, you ever done a Batgirl before? And he's like, no, but I'd be happy, definitely happy to do one and send you a picture of it. And if you like it, I'll send it to you. And, buy it.
A small price of $199.99.
Honestly, I think some of his smaller ones were maybe, like, under $10.
That's good.
I can't actually confirm prices because I don't know. But check him out at SpandexSplinters.com. I'm hoping to have kind of an interview with him at some point soon on the website.
So you would recommend Charlotte Minicon, the people in the area?
Definitely. I mean, a lot of good cosplay. The Charlotte Ghostbusters, they were doing like a live podcast there.
I believe it's the Sci-Fried.
Sci-Fried Eggs or something like that podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were doing a live one there. A lot of people, we realized pretty quickly, it's very family friendly. It's not stroller friendly. So we had to put the baby in a little carrier and stuff. But, because it's just really crowded. But if you were the kind of person...
It went perfect with his costume as Dagobah Luke and
the baby in the back.
Yoda. So.
Yeah, I was like doing handstands and stuff. It was cold out, so no. I was not in a tan tank top. But we had a really good time. It was just a really fun, small convention. The 501st Legion was there doing pictures and, stuff like that.
Again, it's something very local, whereas Heroe-Con has become a national con that people travel, not only from the southeast, but from the west coast, from everywhere to come to.
A distance for Heroe-Con.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I hope I can make Charlotte Minicon, but nonetheless, we'll be at Heroe-Con, which will be at the Charlotte Convention Center the 21st of June. So, very much looking forward to that. Since we're really getting into collecting, I want to talk about something Jerry and I have both been checking out. And that is a magazine called Cool and Collected. Cool. Jerry, tell them a little bit about this, because you've been in on the ground floor on this.
Yeah, I helped kickstart it. I didn't write for it or anything, but I definitely helped kickstart it. And
I would gladly accept the invitation.
I would gladly write for it in the future. When I started really getting into toy collecting, in the mid-'90s, there were a lot of great publications. There was, Action Figure Digest, Lee's Action Figure News and Toy Review, and probably the greatest toy magazine of all time, which is Toy Fair. Which is one of my favorites, because there's a running joke in Jerry's house. Every time I come over to podcast, play a video game, play a board game, whatever, and I go to the restroom, there's an issue of Toy Fair from, I believe, like January 2008, which I've read like from cover to cover. And one night, way before Cool and Collected ever was thought of, I believe, Jerry and I were talking about, man, I miss this. I really miss this type of tangible toy. And there's something very different. It's, we all, get on our iPads, get on our laptops, which is great. It's great instantaneous information, but there's something very different about a magazine like this. Well, I'll tell you one of the most fun things about going back and that was actually always a running joke at Toy Fair, that Toy Fair was the magazine that people either they used to get a lot of prisoners that would write it. Really? They would write in the letters column in Toy Fair. They always get like letters from like correctional institutions. But they also always joked that Toy Fair was what people read on, it was like your restroom reading. And so, like, I rotate the toy fairs in my restroom. I'll rotate them, you know.
In his bedroom, he leaves the same one from January 08 in the guest
You
bathroom.
want me to change it out? But that's that one, the one in there has the really cool, the whole pictorial history of DC DC Direct action figures.
That's very awesome.
Yeah. Once again, that was one of the great things, was like Toy Fair and stuff would have these really cool pictorials sometimes of like, hey, here's, you know, all the figures from this line or that line. Well, people really miss those type of publications, and so Cool and Collected was started to once again get a group of toy collectors together, start writing articles, you know, kind of take everything that we probably do on blogs and websites, but turn into something that's really cool, that's really tangible, that kind of like the toys we collect reflect something that we love from long ago. So,
and this is the guy who started this. His name's Brian Adams, and Jerry, not the legendary Canadian singer, Brian Adams.
He did not sing Summer of '69.
No, he didn't. But Jerry, like we said, he helped kickstart it, and it's something I've been very curious about. But there's so many. There's advice columns on collecting. There's retrospectives. They look back at a particular year. I believe this one's 1966.
I think there's a 66 collector's year.
They have featured art, and one of the artists they feature is Tom Whalen, and they show the 66 Batman poster, which I do own. Paid decent money for that, but I'm waiting to get that frame. But I love this book, and it's not just for crapper reading. Like, it's actually I felt like I got something out of it. Not every article, but there was one I'm trying to find who wrote it. There's a great one on taking your collection to the next level by Jennifer Smith. But there was one, The 5 Ironclad Rules of Toy Collecting. That was a good one by John Schultz. But basically, it talks about sometimes which less is more. And Jerry and I opened this podcast. He's cut down. I know he's collecting 5 lines, but if you're in this collecting room, that's a lot for Jerry to cut down to. And me going from getting 5 to 6 Hot Toys a year to getting 2, you know, you get to the point where, whether it's for financial reasons or sometimes just room, you have to, you know, decide which pieces are going to be important to you within a given time period. And it really talked about that, and I agree with that advice.
It's just neat to look at some things. One of the things that I mentioned earlier is I love seeing what people collect. I mean, I love seeing, especially when somebody collects something that's kind of out of the blue. There was somebody I was talking to, on a website, a forum I frequent a lot. And, I'm always interested because it seems like they collect the most random stuff. And, they were just, they go and they'll, collect a really cool collection, and then they'll decide, okay, I don't know, maybe I'll turn around and sell it. And so, which, sometimes that's part of the process. I'm not really a big seller of my stuff. Every now and then I'll have something where, I'll realize I sort of bought it because I, maybe was trying to be a completist at some point.
Or I'll sell it and then buy it back for a higher price a month later.
Sell it, buy it back.
I'm the worst at, seller's remorse.
But I talked to a couple people lately about, sometimes people collect, but they don't really, they don't know how to really enjoy the collection once they accumulate it.
I think it takes experience, right?
Yeah.
You have to figure out. At first, when you get into collecting, I was guilty of this. I don't know if you were, Jerry, judging by your room, maybe. But you kind of want to get, when you're us, you love so many things.
Yeah.
I love Captain America. I love Iron Man. I love Spider-Man. I love Batman. I love the whole freaking Marvel universe and most of the DC universe. But we can't collect all of that. But that feeling you get from when you first start your collection and starting to compile is such a great feeling that you just want to capture that over and over because you're owning a piece of something you genuinely in your heart love and care about. And you keep wanting to get that feeling and you keep wanting to compile your collection. Eventually you realize, I have so much stuff, I just can't keep doing this. Yeah. And you really do have to pick and choose. And it's more rewarding because it gives your higher quality items more room to breathe and whatnot.
Well, here's 3 things of advice I think I've given to a couple people lately.
Bye.
Yeah. If you're collecting something and you feel like you're starting to not enjoy your collecting, these are 3 things that I've told people that I think really can, maybe help either reignite a love for something, or just maybe you just decide, okay, maybe I have a problem. So here's 3 things of advice. 1, do something with your toys. Like if you collect action figures, and this is harder if you're somebody who wants to collect them like mint on the card, because I think a lot of times, some people have mint on card collections and they're gorgeous and they look great, and some people buy stuff mint on card and stash it because they think they're going to sell it someday. But if you open your stuff, whatever, do something with it. Review it. Take pictures of it.
Share your collection.
Yeah, share it in some way. Like I was talking.
Even if it's just something as simple as having your friends over, being like, "Hey, check this out."
Like it's something. Once again, if you feel like you're buying stuff because you review it. Review something, and then okay, if you're really sitting there and I don't want to do this, I have no interest in this. Well, yeah, maybe you really do realize you're just buying. You're buying stuff compulsively and you're not enjoying it. So try reviewing it. Try taking pictures of it. Doing just funny pictures or neat pictures or something that you like. Number 2, try finding a way to document your collection. Like I knew somebody who would collect stuff, and they would amass kind of a cool collection. I mean, they would do some work. Maybe they'd do some research on some obscure line, or they'd have some art done, or they'd do something kind of cool. And then they would, sort of decide, okay, I want to sell it and move to something else. And sometimes that's okay. People go through hobbies. But I was like, document your collection. Make a little website or a blog or something and, cover the cool stuff you've covered. Put that information out there. And so it can be used for other collectors at some point. The third thing is if you feel like you're really, just all over the place, focus on one character.
Like you did with Batgirl.
Yeah, sometimes that's a really cool way to collect, because then you're suddenly like, okay, now I'm trying to, it kind of breaks you out of the mold of just, picking up all the same kind of stuff. Like you might be, okay, here's a statue, here's a, heck, if I'm at a convention and someone's got little art cards that are 50 cents or $1 for Batgirl, I'm going to pick it up because okay, that's kind of part of my collection, but I'll pass over tons of other stuff. So those are some kind of neat ways if you're, if you feel like your collection's a burden, or if you think you're just not enjoying it, try doing something with it. Review it, photograph it, show it off, document it for people so others can learn from what you've collected, and then maybe focus to one character sometimes.
My biggest piece of advice is figure out what kind of collector you are and roll with that. Be that collector. Jerry and I are completely different collectors.
Yes.
And I love both of our styles. I believe he enjoys coming over to my place and seeing what I have amassed, and I always love seeing Jerry's stuff. But I'm the type of collector that instead of Star Wars Black, or instead of getting a bunch of DC collectible stuff, I would rather take that money and put it toward, one hot toy. Whereas Jerry would rather have, 5 versions, and they each make us happy. There are different styles. I collect Mondo posters, which are very expensive, and getting them framed is another expense on their own, because you have to get them on the secondary market, and they sell out in seconds. Mondo posters, anybody that's listening, you've heard me talk about it in the past if you've listened or read stuff on the site. And then hot toys are the 2 big things I collect, and I believe I became a little bit, I wanted to be like Jerry a little bit in some ways, where I started getting more.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? That's right. Where I wanted, because we would, we love to talk about our collections, and I could tell Jerry, I picked this up, I picked that up, and it's this is not, that's the kind of collector Jerry is, and I love him as a collector and as a friend for being that collector and as a co-host, but that's not me.
Yeah.
And find out what kind of collector you are. Be that collector. But Jerry, we got to move on from what we've been checking out. It's been a great addition of what we've been checking out. Let's go ahead and jump ahead to epic news, because has it been an epic week of news coming out.
Yes, it has.
The biggest announcement just broke right before we actually came on the air, so to speak, if we were on radio. But
This just in.
It broke that Jesse Eisenburg, star of The Social Network, star of Now You See Me, star of Zombieland, is going to play Lex Luthor in the Batman Superman movie. Jerry's laughing. Out in May 2016.
I'm glad I saw it, because I would have thought you were putting me on.
He didn't believe it. Jerry didn't actually believe this news. You know what? I tweeted after this at The Real Brad Bell, and I said, well, he played an evil genius billionaire already in Mark Zuckerberg. I hope he doesn't have a hard time doing it as Lex Luthor. You know?
That's kind of funny. I hadn't even thought about that.
Now, I tweeted that out. That was all me. I didn't read that.
Good.
That was me. That's the kind
You didn't write that or anything?
No.
Okay,
that's
good.
the kind of insights you can get at The Real Brad Bell at Twitter, REEL, of course. But, Jerry, I'm really familiar with Jesse Eisenberg's work. I've seen almost everything he's done. I enjoy Jesse Eisenberg. He's about, 25, 26. He's great at being a fast talker. He excelled in the Aaron Sorkin dialogue of The Social Network. Is he going to be a good Lex Luthor? I'm a little bit disappointed because I know I had my hopes up, but there was a big rumor that seemed to have a lot of traction, even a comment from Joaquin Phoenix. He wanted to be Lex Luthor.
Oh, yeah.
Which would have been amazing. Anybody that's seen him in Her is one of the best performances I've ever seen. They say he's great in The Master. Of course, Walk the Line. You're familiar with his previous work. Gladiator. Awesome in that. But, Jerry, what do you think about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor? He's speechless, guys.
It's out-of-the-box casting. It wasn't something where I sat there and was like, oh my gosh, that sounds terrible. But
I wasn't like, yes, this is what we wanted. Everybody wanted Bryan Cranston from Breaking Bad.
So, like, when I first heard it, I'm sitting there trying to think. I'm like, wait a minute. I was thinking more like Jesse Eisenberg is Mr. Mixtaplex. Jesse
Jimmy Olsen, maybe?
Yeah, as Toyman, Like, I'm thinking all these other characters. I'm like, but Lex Luthor, I'm not... like, I could even see him as, like, a Riddler.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
I have a more difficult time seeing him as Lex Luthor. But when you brought up The Social Network...
I think that's the movie that got him this job.
That kind of made me think about... I mean, if you're doing a modern version, that's a really modern version of a guy who is like this powerful, intelligent...
Egocentric.
Egocentric, manipulative character. And who would be like a modern Lex Luthor. It doesn't have to be this, powerful, cold businessman anymore. That this could be a really good fit.
I guess it's just the age kind of got me. I mean, Jesse Eisenberg is rather young. He's a lot younger than Henry Cavill.
I just see Batman and Superman just like ripping this guy in half,
just kicking his ass.
I know.
He's definitely going to have a mech suit if he's going to fight these guys.
Oh, yeah, the armor or something. I mean, which once again is the whole Lex Luthor thing is you can't... I mean, you can never have Superman go toe-to-toe with most characters. So,
and
they're acknowledging that.
He's a great actor, very talented. We're not trying to demean Jesse Eisenberg by no means. Now You See Me was one of my top 10 favorite films of 2013, and he headlined that film. It's just hard to see him as Lex Luthor. However, I remember when Heath Ledger was cast as a Joker.
Yeah.
Oh, Brokeback Batman. This is going to be terrible. And then now he is almost a deity to Batman fans.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm very excited for it, if nothing else out of curiosity. But Jerry Reed, barbecue, there's something I'm even more curious about. And we got a lot of traction on the site with this article, so I'm feeling that you guys are curious about it out there in listener land as well. We have the reveal, finally, the long-awaited reveal of what Michael Bay's, not Teenage Mutant, simply, once again, just Ninja Turtles are going to look like. We also got to look at what William Fichtner's version of the Shredder was going to look like. Yeah. Jerry, when these images hit the Epic Review this week, what was your thoughts?
I was actually really happy. I like the look of them. One of the things is that, a lot of times when a property comes to the screen, I think we're really defensive because it might be the first time. Like when Transformers came out, people were like, okay, wait a minute, this is the first time we've seen, live-action Transformers. There are a few good Turtle movies. We have a lot of incarnations of the Turtles. I don't feel like, everything about the Turtles' future rests with this movie. I mean, there's a great comic series, a great cartoon series. The toy line has been one of the biggest hits in a toy line in years. I mean, for mass market, for kids actually buying action figures.
But a bad movie could put a damper on some of that stuff.
It could put a damper on it.
Or it could take it to the next level.
Yeah. We could be experiencing Turtle Mania like...
If this movie's any good, we
had not experienced since maybe like the early 90s.
There's a built-in fan base of older people who love these characters, and now they brought in a whole new generation.
I mean, is there anybody who doesn't like the Ninja Turtles? I mean, really? I mean, is there anybody who... there's always those properties like Power Rangers that if you're like some people even my age are like, Power Rangers are so lame. I mean, there's a lot of those kind of properties. They're really geared towards like a certain group. But yeah, Turtles. I mean, I think everybody likes the Ninja Turtles. I mean, if you don't, you're the one.
Let me ask you this question. Andrew Stokes and I have had this conversation.
He's the one who doesn't like... No, I'm just kidding.
Have had this conversation about... We had this with the Amazing Spider-Man outfit in the first movie, which you hadn't seen the movie. Jared's borrowed my copy for like 9 months and still has not watched Mark
Had
Webb's
a baby during the time. Didn't watch Amazing Spider-Man. Yeah.
Get your priorities in order.
I have no interest in Spider-Man at all. He interests me not.
Well, he's my second favorite character of all time. However...
And Stan Lee created him just for you.
Yeah, that's what he told me at Heroe-Con 2012. So, one of the best moments of my life until I married my beautiful fiance, Abby. But anyway, let's get back on topic to the Turtles.
Okay.
All right, Jerry. Where was I? You made me lose my train of thought.
Well, you were talking about you and Andrew talking about something.
Andrew and I were talking about, excuse me, listeners, we're talking about the Amazing Spider-Man outfit. He said, you know what it looks like to me the first time we saw it? And this is not the second one coming out this year. This is the first Mark Webb movie. It looks like the movie version of a Spider-Man suit. It doesn't look like a Spider-Man suit. He said, you remember how the Power Ranger suits looked on TV? And then there were the movie version. It was something different.
Yeah.
Maybe, I'm not going to say it was more aesthetically pleasing, but it had a different feel to it. It almost, it had a movie quality feel. Do you feel that with these Turtle designs? Do you see this as a new kind of sweet incarnation of the Turtles? If you, for example, if you saw this design in a new IDW comic book, or you saw this in a new action figure line or something, would you take to this design, or do you just kind of think, oh, this is this movie version of the Turtles? You see my point?
Yeah, I get that. I think I might actually take to it because a couple things about it is, I mean, I think, so Leonardo has sort of this somewhat samurai-ish armor going on.
Like a bamboo armor on his chest.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's like very primitive but warrior-like.
He has boots, too. He was the only one that had fully enclosed feet from what I could tell.
Yeah. So Michelangelo kind of looks like he's trying to wear some normal clothes,
And Donnie has these goggles, which fit him well.
Well, and that's my first point, is that if you're new to the Turtles, which, I mean, kids these days, they're not now because of Nickelodeon's reboot. They're kind of knowing who the Turtles are. But I like that there's some kind of a visual cue to their personality. I think in the costume. It's not just random, like, they're not just wearing, like, tactical web gear and stuff like that. There's something that kind of links to their personality a little bit. I mean, Leo's kind of got that, primitive, noble warrior thing going on. Michelangelo, I mean, he wants to fit in. That's kind of always been a thing of Michelangelo's character, He wants to just he wants to be part of everything else. That's been explored in the comic. That's been explored in the cartoons. He wants to be a normal guy. He wants to eat pizza and enjoy it. Raphael's his looks, pretty normal, pretty
He's
good.
the most classic looking turtle of the four.
And then Donatello's got the tech thing going on. So I don't think it's bad. And one of the things I think a lot of people don't think about is that the Turtles actually wore some outfits. I mean, not like these necessarily.
Trench coats don't count, Jerry.
No, but in the old comics, in the old, the black and white comic series.
Eastman and Laird.
Yeah, the
classic.
Eastman and Laird, the classic series. I mean, they did wear different outfits and stuff from time to time, and they had different looks. I mean, they wore things. Sometimes they didn't wear just the eye headband. They actually wore the full, bandana, like a do-rag, that covered over their head and stuff. So
Leo's gear kind of, in a way, reminded me of what they wore in Ninja Turtles 3. Just a little bit.
Okay. And, I mean, that's a great visual cue for Leonardo.
It was a good look. The movie wasn't that great.
Yeah, but isn't Leonardo kind of this...
Noble samurai.
Yeah, he's like this noble samurai. Raphael's like a street fighter. Donatello is the tech guy. Michelangelo wants to fit in. Leonardo owns up to that.
The problem I have, I actually like their gear. I think it gives them a new sense of individuality beyond just a color on a headband.
Sure.
However...
And what did we complain about? What did everybody complain about Transformers? You couldn't tell robots apart. That's what everybody said about Transformers. You can tell these guys apart.
But however...
All right.
These guys, they're huge. They look like they're on turtles on steroids.
Yeah.
I mean, they look like mini Hulklings. I don't know. I don't understand that, Jerry.
So yeah, you get to that point when you actually get to what the anatomy of them looks like, and I mean, they're mutants. I mean, there's not kind of some set rule on this is how they should look, right? But still, when too much muscle is too much. You see those guys on Muscle and Fitness that have like muscle on top of muscle. Yeah. That's what they look like. Turtles are kind of awkward looking there. So, I mean, these guys look kind of awkward and ripped. I mean, I don't know. I really think seeing them in motion is going to be important. I think seeing them in motion is going to be really significant to getting the full picture here.
One thing I was really pleased with was William Fichtner, what his shredder is going to look like. He looks
pretty cool.
Epic, Jerry. What did you think of that design?
Yeah, I mean, I saw some really cool nods to, what I've always thought is just very classic shredder elements.
Yeah, it was the perfect blend of, hey, here's our movie version. But like Jerry said, here's a nod to like classic Shredder elements. I believe he had the purple cape there in the background. However, let me ask you a question. William Fichtner, I really like this guy as an actor. He's in Elysium. He's one of the few bright spots of the Lone Ranger movie this past summer. Now, he's not Japanese. He's not Asian. Mm-hmm. They're making taking an Asian character and making him a white guy. I mean, how do you feel about this, Jerry? What do you think about it?
I'm really gonna have to see what their reasoning for doing that is.
Is he going to be a Roko Saki though?
Yeah, I would hope they would try. I don't know.
I heard that they're going to change his. Now this is all rumors, so don't consider this spoilers whatsoever. That he is actually going to be a guy named Colonel Schrader, who picks up the name Shredder.
Okay, I'll be honest, that sounds really lame.
Because he's a former... Well, this is Michael Bay, Jerry. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I know...
That just tipped me off that it was Michael Bay.
I know, I know that. I believe the guy's name who's directing is like Joseph Lesman or something like that. And Joe, you got to pass for me because to me, this is Michael Bay's Ninja Turtles movie. You don't take on a property this big and be an established filmmaker who put Transformers into the mainstream media's and audience's eye and don't think we're not going to hold this director accountable. We're holding Michael Bay accountable if he messes this up. And you know what, Jerry, I know I sound like a fanboy on a soapbox here, but you're already taking an Asian character and making him a white. You're whitewashing Shredder in a sense. I mean, but, you know, I would rather they change it to, in all honesty, being Colonel Schrader, a white guy, having that than having him portray
as a
Roko Saki.
As a new villain.
No, not a new villain.
I'm saying you would rather him
be a new person, a new character,
right?
Than have a white guy playing Roko Saki. I mean, that just sounds incredibly racist. But, of course, this is the era where we had Johnny Depp portray a Native American.
Well, and I mean, we talked about this before. That I mean, you know, we talked about that about when we had the final Fantastic Four discussion.
This is the exact. Here's what I was getting on. I'm sorry to interject, but I'm passionate about this subject. I love Michael B. Jordan. Fruitvale Station was one of my favorite movies. Third favorite movie of 2013. I think he's the next big star, the next Tom Hanks, the next Denzel. Mm-hmm. One day. David Chen of Slash Film said he will be a household name, and I agree with David Chen on that. And he's going to be in the Fantastic Four reboot. Josh Trank, he's going to be the Human Torch, which is traditionally a white character. And we talked about how we don't mind, you know, furthering black characters like we would further Cyborg, or we want Bishop.
So DC jumped Cyborg up to being a one of the, you know, prime 7 members of Justice League.
And I don't want to get too much into that because there's a whole past podcast on that. However, this is the opposite of that. I don't want them to make, you know, an Asian guy, a Japanese character, white. Yeah. It works both ways. I'm pretty stern on this, right? I'm not flip-flopping just because I'm a white guy trying to, you know, gerrymander it in my favor. I'm trying to
there's some pretty,
be poignant about it.
There's some really good story that's been told in the comics and even the first movie about the history that Hamato Yoshi and Iruku Saki had. You know, that, I mean, most of the time really deals with them leaving, you know, their home country. You know, leaving where they're from and coming to New York as kind of this you know, place that's alien and foreign to them, but at the same time is also kind of a, you know, a melting pot of culture. And in a lot of ways, their experience, like, you know, Iruku Saki coming to, you know, New York, or Hamato Yoshi coming to New York, kind of mirrors the Turtles. Is they're sort of, you know, they're aliens. They're strangers in the land.
They may literally be aliens in Michael Bay's version.
We will see. But they're kind of experiencing this. Okay, how do we fit in? I mean, I think it's kind of a metaphor for, you know, when someone moves to somewhere where it's clear that they're not a local.
I don't think Michael Bay.
Difficulty that can be.
Michael Bay is not big on metaphors.
Yeah,
so. He's like, let's whitewash everybody and make them military commanders. Anyway,
we'll see.
How do you feel about them dropping? They dropped the teenage. First, they said it was Ninja Turtles. Then Michael Bay Cave said it's going to be Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because everybody was up in arms. They may be aliens.
Yeah.
And then it's Ninja Turtles again. Are you that upset about this title?
No. I mean, honestly, most of the time in general conversation, I say TMNT or I say Ninja Turtles. Or let's be honest, if I talk about Turtles, that's typically what I mean. I mean, if they just called the movie Turtles, I don't know if I'd be okay with that, but I would be okay with it.
It's like Arrow, the Green Arrow.
Well, and it's also
him Arrow.
It's also going to be a way we can distinguish the movies as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, Sam Raimi, and now we have the Amazing Spider-Man
rather than just call it Team Ninja Turtles, because then you'd be like, oh, you're talking about the
80s movies, though. Yeah, it was 1990. Yeah. Jerry, let's move on to another superhero movie.
Can I say one thing?
Go ahead. Sorry.
You completely mistitled your article with the Turtles information.
Okay.
This is what you should have called it. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
This is the title. Dudes and Dudettes, Major League Butt Kicking is back in town.
All right. I like my title better. Okay, Jerry.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
That's a great line.
All right. Let's move on, Jerry. For some reason, several people's favorite X-Men character, Gambit, made famous on the 90s TV show.
Definitely made famous there.
Is actually, I believe, Geener Beaner. is her favorite X-Man. She got a Marvel
He
Select
was last
Gambit.
year.
It may change.
This year she likes Banshee. I'm just kidding.
But however, guess who Fox apparently wants to play, and apparently he wants to play Gambit also, Mr. Channing Tatum. Now, Jerry, I had one reaction. I was talking to a coworker this morning about this at work, and I said, you know what? Channing Tatum's not a great actor. I don't despise Channing Tatum like a lot of G.I. Joe fans. However, Gambit's not a great character. Tatum's not a great actor. Sounds like a match made in heaven. However, if they did a Gambit movie solo, it would be terrible. If it was team, it would work well. And I'm talking to this coworker. He reads comics and stuff, and he watches movies, and he's fairly big into pop culture. And I said, can I just ask you one question? Why do you like Gambit? Because he said, oh, Gambit, he's a badass. I was like, why do you like Gambit? He said, he was sitting there, he's like, he throws cards and he's got that big stick. He swings that stick. I'm like, so all you can tell me of why you like this character, which I think classifies a lot of Gambit fans, is that he throws cards, he's got a Cajun accent, he dated Jubilee, and he's got a cool stick. No, Rogue. Sorry,
yeah,
he dated Rogue. Not
was it Jubilee like
sorry.
12 or something?
Yeah, it's been a while. He dated Rogue. I mean, Remy LeBeau is not the greatest character, Jerry. What are your thoughts on this?
I've heard the new Gambit series is really good. I have a friend that likes Gambit, and he's been enjoying the new Gambit series. I haven't read it, and once again, I'm not a huge Marvel person. I mean, I like Gambit, but
you like the X-Men more than you do Spider-Man.
I like a lot of things more like Spider-Man. So anyways, Channing Tatum, strangely, is an actor that has grown on me. When I first saw him in the original G.I. Joe and Rise of Cobra, I'm just like, I mean, I could kind of see why they picked him as Duke, but at the same time, I just felt like if they would have just got a cardboard stand-up of Channing Tatum in that movie and just kind of moved it around on a train like in Home Alone, that it would have done its purpose. But over time, as I've come to see him in little, other things, I mean, I don't dislike him. He's definitely seems like a likable actor. He seems like he's got a good sense of humor. I'm not sure that I can see him as Gambit, but I don't know.
I can see anybody as Gambit. They could have, I don't know, Bill Hader as Gambit. He's a very popular, recently left SNL guy. Jerry's like, who's Bill Hader?
Yeah,
but
I should figure out who that was.
I mean, I don't care. I really don't. I'm not one of these people who's apathetic towards superhero films like a lot of people in the critical community.
Let's just go all out and have it a Gambit Deadpool movie to combine.
Yeah, where Deadpool tries to assassinate Channing Tatum and successfully. Finishes the job.
It's an interesting project. Once again, I think Gambit is. I mean, yeah, you're right. A lot of people really like Gambit, and he's a popular character. And I mean,
the X-Men movies are in a decent place with Bryan Singer
I cannot
back on board.
I cannot believe they never brought him into any of the other films.
Bryan Singer was smart. Gambit's not that great of a character,
but I mean, once again, he took.
I mean, I know he's a popular character because of the 90s TV show.
But Cyclops was a great character that Bryan Singer just kind of like, here.
Well, he did well with Cyclops the first two films, and then for anybody, spoilers for the third X-Men, he's killed off.
Cyclops was just kind of there for those movies.
He made Cyclops into the stereotypical jerk that everybody classifies him as. And Andrew Stokes is the biggest Cyclops fanboy. He hates Wolverine. We've had this conversation ad nauseum. Yes, he made Cyclops fall into all the Cyclops tropes.
Yeah.
But, hey, that worked for me. I hate Cyclops. But, no, I see your point. I see his point.
I'm getting at you. You basically hate most of the X-Men.
Except for Wolverine. Yeah, I'm just kidding. No, I love a lot of the X-Men's not my favorite Marvel book, but, I mean, I enjoy it. I read some X-Men. Jerry, if I could transition to another Marvel topic really quick. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. came out this week,
You have a Big Bang Theory pen.
Yes, I do.
Where did
have
you
a
get
Big
that?
Bang. I found it at school in the floor.
That's kind of funny.
One of my kids dropped it. All right, now.
I thought that's what I saw.
That's our random tangent for the
Yeah.
day. The Big Bang Theory pen, the show that used to be for geeks, but now is for everyone. Now, anyway, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Jerry has not been watching this show. I've been watching it religiously.
I just started watching Birds of Prey. That was from...
We'll save that for next time, what you've been checking out, Jerry. But CBR did a sit-down with the cast, and they spoke with them, and people are hating on this show. Their complaints are, and I knew this was coming, and I'm not one of the people that expected Robert Downey Jr. to show up, okay? But they're like, there's too many one-shot episodes. They're not building toward an overarching story. There's no, we're not expecting, Wolverine or Spider-Man. Well, they're owned by different studios, so that's a bad example. We're not expecting Cap to show up. All right, but we want, at least give us Luke Cage or Jessica Jones or Jessica Drew or Daredevil.
Rabbit.
Or
just throw somebody out there.
Just, some character we know.
Howard the Duck.
Hell, put Howard the Duck on there. At least he's a recognizable face.
Groot.
So, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the guy who plays Agent Coulson. And let me tell you, I'm not spoiling anything, but of course everybody wanted to know how Coulson got back. They semi-explained it and kind of botched that. That was poor execution. I can't really get into it without spoiling. If you want me to, we can talk about it.
Talk about it later, because I'm interested.
Yeah. So they're coming up, the writers are coming up with this plan, what we can do to get higher ratings. Now, they've had Abigail Brand on there. They've had Nick Fury. Samuel L. Jackson showed up and cameoed as Nick Fury on, the second episode. I'm like, holy hell, Samuel L. Jackson's on network TV? Okay.
He pretty much does anything people ask him. I mean, he's an actor. He does,
So here's,
cool.
Clark Gregg, who plays Agent Phil Coulson, says, this is like a great meal, and everybody wants to get to dessert. Well, we're getting to the dessert, just get there. Mm-hmm. But here is what it looks like the dessert is. Are you ready, Jerry?
Yeah.
They plan to include Deathlock in the show, who I'm a huge Marvel fanboy, and who gives a crap about Deathlock?
I think I have an old Toy Biz Deathlock action figure in there somewhere.
Who cares about Deathlock? They're bringing in Lady Sif, which is pretty interesting, from the Thor movies.
Thor, yeah. Okay.
That's pretty decent. They're bringing in Stan Lee for a cameo. He cameos in every Marvel movie. I love Stan Lee, but come on. And they're going to try to build an overarching story. All of a sudden, in the second half of this show, and the show has great characters. Anybody who likes Joss Whedon knows Joss Whedon can write great characters. He can write great character dialogue. He can make characters interesting who seemingly don't seem interesting from the outset. It's just that this show has Marvel play right before it comes on. The Marvel logo pops up, and people expect something very more, so much more from that. But Jerry, I know you don't watch the show, but you can definitely relate. How do you feel? Is there anything they can do to combat this? Because I don't think Deathlock, Stan Lee, and Lady Sif are the answers they've been looking for. Do you?
No, I mean, I think you're right that as much as they say over and over, this isn't going to become, Avengers the TV show or something like that. I mean, they can tell people that over and over. I mean, they really do have to develop their own characters, and it is a great chance. You're right to bring in people like
C-level characters.
Yeah, C-level, or even a low B-level.
Bring in Iron Fist.
Test some stuff out. Just kind of see what works. I imagine one of the really
Do you know why they're not doing that, Jerry?
Why?
They signed a deal with Netflix, Marvel Studios.
Oh, because they've got all those other shows.
And they're going to do all those other shows. The Defenders, I believe they're going to... I know they're having a Daredevil show. So it's like, all right, we're going to hold out our really good stuff for the content you have to pay for. We're not giving that away on network TV.
And I mean, let's be honest, one of the difficult things I can imagine about doing this show is that, I mean, which they probably are, but unless they're being super careful, which I'm sure they're being pretty careful about working stuff in the movies, but how many really, universe-changing things can you do in the show?
I'm hoping there'll be at least one plot point we look back when we finally get to Avengers 2 or maybe in Avengers 3 that we look back and say, wow, that was meaningful.
Yeah.
Because the only reason I watch this show is because it's a Marvel show. If this is just Joe Schmo's show, I'm not watching. I'm sorry. Because it's not bad. Don't get me wrong. It's not terrible, but it pales in comparison to even Smallville or the Arrow that's on CW right now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just...
I don't know. Having not seen it, I don't have a lot of...
insight into it.
A lot of insight into it.
And Jerry, you may not be missing much, but it's not there's still a chance. There's hope for it. Anytime you got Clark Gregg, he's such an endearing and beloved character by Marvel fans. It's got a shot.
I mean, it's just... It definitely, with what you're saying, makes it sound like someone's like, oh my gosh, Avengers is super popular. We could do a show about S.H.I.E.L.D. And then they're like, wait a minute, we don't really know what we're...
Well, they have Maria Hill. Colby Smulders appears like one every 5 episodes.
Okay.
They've had Graviton. They've had Blizzard, which is their version of Mr. Freeze.
Yeah, I know who Blizzard is.
Yeah, so I mean, they've had, these C-level villains come on and Maria Hill's an A-level character, but they never use her because Colby Smulders...
You think she's
B-level.
B-level. Let's go with B-level.
B-plus level. Yeah. But Colby Smulders is too busy with finishing How I Met Your Mother. All right, one quick tidbit of epic news.
Bit that tidbit.
Before we get into the featured review of the week. Jerry, Enterbay announced they were doing a 1/4 scale, all die-cast RoboCop, are you ready? 3-figure, RoboCop 3 with the jetpack and all. That is going. You can order it now at BigBadToyStore.com for $575. Jerry, I know neither one of us are going to pick this up. However, is it
that's
not?
Just because I couldn't get it next to my 1/1 scale die-cast metal RoboCop statue that I stole from Detroit.
In your dreams, buddy.
I'm just kidding. I want to go to Detroit and see the RoboCop statue.
It's not finished yet, is it?
I know, but I'm planning to when it's done.
Well, I mean, this is an impressive feat. Just a sight to behold. This figure. Have you ever? I've never seen any Enterbay stuff in person. Have you? I know you don't own any Enterbay.
I've probably seen one or two of their because they do a lot of 1/6 stuff. I've seen some of them at shows.
After Hot Toys kind of dominated and took over the 1/6 market, Enterbay used to be what Hot Toys is. Now Enterbay is more transitioned to the 1/4 scale. That's their specialty.
Yeah, Enterbay's been doing some really good stuff, though. I mean, they've done some... I mean, they do some interesting projects. I'm trying to think what I saw Enterbay.
Well, they've done the NBA license. They've done Jack Bauer.
They've done some Bruce Lee recently.
Yeah,
which
Bruce
is amazing.
Lee.
I mean,
they've done 1/6 and 1/4 scale.
Yeah.
They've done 1/4 scale Rambo. They've done 1/4 scale.
I wonder how heavy that thing is.
I don't know. I mean, it's got to be heavy.
I wonder if it has to ship freight. I just don't know. I don't know how heavy it would have to be.
Yeah, it's impressive, man.
Can I share an epic news thing that just came to me?
Go ahead.
This just in. No. So, the other night I learned that on eBay, somebody was selling, I don't know who it was, the mobile command center from The Lost World.
The actual one.
Yes, used in the film. You know, the big, mobile lab.
That Vince Vaughn frequented.
Yeah. And so they were using that. They had that going for a little bit of money. But what was going for multiple times more than a giant, RV was the raptor cage from the beginning of Jurassic Park. That, they had at the beginning that the worker gets pulled into.
One of the best opening scenes in cinema.
In any movie. And it was going for over, I want to say over $100,000 or something. But you could buy the raptor cage from Jurassic Park.
That is epic.
I was sitting there and like...
How much was it going for?
Oh, it was over $100,000. This was a day or two ago. I don't know if the auction's over yet.
Michael Bay just bought it.
I dressed like Robert Muldoon, the game warden from Jurassic Park that was played by the late Bob Peck. I dressed like him for Halloween one year. And if I had enough money to buy that raptor cage, I would use it as a dog kennel for like one of my dogs. Not, of course, they sleep in the bed, so it wouldn't really make sense. So I would have it in a room in my house, and I would probably like dress up like Muldoon and just like sit there and have people like pull me into the cage and yell, "Shoot her!" I would love to have that cage.
And news doesn't get any more epic than that. So with that, we'll go ahead and move forward to our featured review, which is the latest film by Stuart Beatty, starring Aaron Eckhart, I, Frankenstein.
The rumors are true. I was given life 200 years ago. I am like none other.
You have strength and speed and stamina, far beyond that of any human. You could use those gifts in a war that you are already a part of.
I go my own way.
That was from the trailer of Stuart Beatty's I, Frankenstein. And we say I in the South. I know it's I, Frankenstein, for all of you more grammatically correct people, not in the Deep South. However, it's the Hollywood foothills of North Carolina, not Cali. So,
and for you Mel Brooks fans, it's I, Frankenstein.
Exactly. Classic Mel Brooks reference by Barbecue. Now, this is actually based on a Dark Storm comic book from Dark Storm Studios, which I did research. I tried to. I couldn't figure out who wrote this book.
Same guy who did Underworld.
Okay.
Which I didn't like either. So
do you know his name?
I don't remember.
I tried to find it. I don't know. Maybe I was a little lazy on it. Now, this is Stuart Beatty's directorial debut. No, it's not his debut. He directed a smaller film that was never given a theatrical release. And based off of what we saw from I, Frankenstein, we may know why. Now, but aside from that one movie that he directed, this is his first, wide theatrical release, his debut as far as that goes for Stuart Beatty. He is known for writing such films, such classics and masterpieces as G.I. Joe, Rise of Cobra, and Punisher, Warzone.
Which I absolutely love Punisher, Warzone. It would be higher up on my list of Marvel movies than lower down.
All right, I'm going to give a brief synopsis, and it's not going to be too deep, guys, because nothing about this movie really was.
Then I'll explain my biggest question about this.
Jerry,
go for it.
Interject if you want to. If you more story or something I'm leaving out.
Okay.
It's basically a war. We don't know really why or how. It's glossed over in a monologue, which we'll get into a little bit later. We basically have gargoyles, and not the cool ones from the 90s cartoon. We have gargoyles and demons in an ancient battle, and we have Frankenstein kind of caught in the middle. All right, that's all you really need to know. According to the directors of the movie, that's all you really need to know.
I'm going to jump in and say that the movie tells the Frankenstein in this movie, Aaron Eckhart's Frankenstein, is supposed to be the classic character. That it takes place in the same universe that, I guess you would say, like the book took place in, or Frankenstein, and Dr. Victor Frankenstein had made a promise to Aaron Eckhart, but we don't know what that promise is till later in the movie.
We'll save that for spoilers. And
because he never fulfills the promise, Frankenstein kills Victor Frankenstein's bride. Frankenstein's monster kills Frankenstein's bride. At this point, afterwards, I'm just going to call Aaron Eckhart Frankenstein because he's Frankenstein.
Yes.
I mean, he even says it.
Well, he tries to be.
I, Frankenstein. So anyways, he kills him. Victor Frankenstein tries to hunt him down. Victor Frankenstein dies in the cold because he chases Frankenstein in the mountains. And Frankenstein goes to bury him and gets attacked by a bunch of demons. But he fights the demons. And then these gargoyles come in to rescue Frankenstein. So the demons are these demons that are trying to come up, from hell. And they are trying to win this war against God. And so there's these, the gargoyles are like these almost angelic beings, but they're like the warriors because there's Gabriel. They were they were ordained by like the Archangel Michael, and one of the gargoyles is named Gabriel. And so they're supposed to, there's a gargoyle queen who's Miranda Otto, who was Éowyn in Lord of the Rings. So
and Jay Courtney is one of the main gargoyles.
Jay Courtney he's a Gabriel.
Oh, he's Gabriel. Okay,
yeah. So
very forgetful performance. He was John McClane's son, and was it Live Free or Die?
A Good Day to Die
Hard. Yeah. We reviewed that the last installment, which was very problematic as well.
So, anyways, that's kind of the plot. Is so Frankenstein gets involved in this war.
But you had a big question about what does the I mean?
Well, I was wondering, I guess I should have seen it. There was an I comma, but I was kind of wondering if it was going to be like, I, Frankenstein, like his identity, like in the sense of, I, Robot, or the book I, Jedi. Was it about him coming to realize that I, Frankenstein? Or was it like I, as in, I don't know what it means, but like iPod or iCarly, kind of that little lowercase I that means something technical. So I was really wondering which I it was.
But, Jerry, I figured out which I it was. At least for me. And the I it was I want my damn money back for this movie, even though I only paid $5.50 for a matinee showing. Because, Jerry, this movie, make no bones about it, Jerry will defend it a little more than I will.
Let's not call it defending it.
It's crap. It's problematic. January is considered like a dumping ground for movies. And the past 2 years, we have two gems sneak through. The Gray with Liam Neeson, phenomenal. And Hansel and Gretel, which was kind of panned by critics, but was a very fun movie.
Loved it. And it knew that it was a crazy, over-the-top, bloody, ridiculous film. And it completely lived up to it. It owned it, and it's probably the movie from last year that I've watched more than any other.
It made his top 10.
I love it. It's crazy.
Well, you talked about how Hansel and Gretel knew his tone so well. Let's face it, one of the main reasons we went and saw this movie is because it had Aaron Eckhart. We like Aaron Eckhart.
I like Aaron Eckhart a lot.
Two-Face. Olympus Has Fallen. I gave it a hard time.
I preferred Olympus Has Fallen over White House Down.
I didn't, but he was good as the president. He was a great
president. He was a great Harvey Dent.
Yeah. So, well, you can say we believe in Aaron Eckhart. The question is, will we at the end of this review? We'll answer that question at the end. But you said tonally. I believe we've discussed after seeing this movie. Tonally, this didn't know what it wanted to be. Did it want to be a serious retelling of the famous Frankenstein tale?
Yeah.
Or did it want to be this campy joke of a movie? Not joke of a movie, but kind of campier and violent movie like Hansel and Gretel.
Sure.
And you and I both agreed Aaron Eckhart was perfect in those more serious moments.
If this had been a quieter, more serious movie, I mean, he's a good actor, and he nailed his parts. I don't think you can fault Aaron Eckhart for this movie's problems. It's kind of like Aaron Eckhart was actually doing if there's a Frankenstein remake coming up, or a readaptation that has Daniel Craig and James McAvoy in it. Daniel Craig. Daniel Radcliffe, Harry Potter, and James McAvoy. And I think that's going to be a more thoughtful, somber, kind of movie. And I think Aaron Eckhart did a good job playing that character, but that's not what this film was. And to be honest, since most of this movie was probably accomplished in post-production through special effects and green screening, I don't think you can fault him because, I mean, this movie was just, it was a movie that was very much assembled. I didn't care for the Underworld movie. I only saw the first one, and I just didn't care for them. But it's kind of that, like, gothic, but it's flashy. It's over the top, but it doesn't, like, want to acknowledge that it's being crazy and over the top and ridiculous.
It wants you to take itself seriously when it's not.
Yeah.
That's what it wants you to do.
Yeah. If you're like a 15-year-old, like, just a new 15-year-old goth kid, I think you'd think this movie might be, like, dark and brooding and, you know, and deep. I don't know, maybe not. It might be insulting.
Now, without just, you know, saying it's a bad... There's different kinds of bad movies.
Yeah.
There's bad movies that are so bad, they're funny.
Here's my idea of the bad of the tone of bad movies. And I'm going to compare it to vomiting. Okay? I'm going to use vomiting as my illustration.
Which I wanted to do after the film.
So, there's the first type of vomiting that, I mean, let's say you're, like, all sitting around, you know, let's say you're, like, eating lunch with friends or something, and somebody at another table just, like, you know, Ralph's all over the place, and you just start laughing, okay? It's just such an awful scene. You're, like, eating your lunch, and somebody's just like, you know, yeah, I'll have the, you know, just all over the place. And everybody starts laughing. It's terrible. You're a bad person, but you're laughing. And sometimes there's a movie that's just so bad that you have to laugh, you know? I'm thinking like, I mean, movies like Troll 2 that has this whole cult following. That's not a movie. If you watch the documentary Best Worst Movie Ever, nobody there thought they were making a bad movie. People thought, well, we're making something good, and it was just awful. Think about anything that's usually watched on Mystery Science Theater 3000, you know? Movies that are bad, and you just see it, you see the train wreck happen, and you just start laughing. That's like when you enjoy the bad movie. Okay? Then you have, like, the intentionally bad movies. I mean, and I'm not saying certainly bad, unenjoyable, but Hansel and Gretel, to me, was a movie that knew it was silly. It knew it was bloody, it knew it was over the top, it knew it was crude, and everybody is playing that movie so tongue-in-cheek that you're like, okay, they get it. We're all in on the joke, you know, how crazy this premise is.
Even very serious, typically actors like Jeremy Renner bought in.
Oh, man, yeah, I mean, he's just nailing it. That's like, so like when I was in high school, some friends and I would like to do, and in college, we would do this a lot. We would do the gallon challenge. That's where you all try to drink a gallon of milk, and most people can't do it. And so you just start vomiting. And we'd all sit there and drink the gallon of milk, and we'd all vomit together and just laugh at this and thought it was hilarious and record ourselves doing it. That's like when everybody's like in on the joke. It's you know, it's a train wreck, it's a disaster, but it's intentional.
That'd be like Hansel and Gretel.
That's like Hansel and Gretel. That's like something like any of the trauma films, you know, like Toxic Avenger, where they're just so crazy and over the top and schlocky that, yeah, this is the point, and we're all enjoying it. And then you have somebody vomits, and you just pity them. This is like your poor little kid comes home, and like, I'm sick, and they like throw up, and you feel bad for them, you know, or your dog's sick, and you're like petting the dog and trying to feed it rice, and you're just like, man, I feel bad. That's what this movie was. And I feel bad.
Let's talk about a little bit why it was that bad kind of vomit. I said that Stuart Beatty in this film committed like 3 cardinal sins.
And I thought that was really interesting in your review. Yeah, I hope you jump on that.
So let's talk about that now. Voice monologues. I don't have any problems with like, you know, voiceover monologues.
Sure, it can be a really effective.
Can be really effective when used the right way. However, this film relies on those voiceover monologues as plot devices.
Yes.
To tell large amounts of mythos and origins of these characters that we're supposed to be at least somewhat invested in for almost 2 hours. And that is done not only throughout the movie, but as soon as the movie starts. It's a voiceover from Aaron Eckhart. There is also, you think you're about to see this first big action scene with with Frankenstein,
Yeah.
Aaron Eckhart lunges into the air with these two metal sticks he carries around, and boom, we go to a wide shot, and it doesn't show any of the action, Jerry. Now, it showed action, but...
It cuts away at that point.
And I just start laughing, because I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
The action scenes were really uneven all over this movie. I mean, this was a movie that was going to live or die based on its tone, and if it had good action scenes, I could have forgave a lot of the problems with this movie and probably enjoyed it more. But you're right. Sometimes things cut away when you're like, oh, this is going to be fantastic. And it's not like a dramatic cutaway. It's like, oh, so we're not going to see like what looks entertaining about this movie. Or sometimes the action scenes will be so close up that you're just not really sure what's happening, and they would just be really flawed and messy. Like, you're not quite
There
sure.
were incoherent action scenes. Action has to make sense in and of itself.
Yeah.
Right? You set your own limitations to what action can be in your film.
Sure.
And you follow that. This had no set tone. Just like it didn't have a set tone for the film overall, it had no set tone action. You know, 1 minute people are going through walls. 1 minute they're focused on aerial action, which, you know, it's good to mix up your action, but it was just...
I mean, some of the I will say the aerial parts, you know, with the gargoyles flying, were probably the most entertaining parts of the movie. The gargoyles flying were...
That's not saying a lot.
It's not saying a lot, but I mean, there was definitely one part that, once again, if I thought they were in on the joke, okay, but I don't know.
Which part was that?
This is when a gargoyle grabs Aaron Eckhart as Frankenstein and is like, you know, knocking him through buildings, but we're seeing it from the perspective of like just Aaron Eckhart's head as he's flying through buildings. And
this film was shot terribly.
It was, but you know what? It was the same thing that they sort of do at the end or at the beginning of Evil Dead 2: Dead by Dawn. But that's a fantastic scene because the tone is right and it's hilarious, and Bruce Campbell nails it. And Sam Raimi, you know, was doing these new camera techniques. And in this movie, it just falls flat because you're like, that's so crazy, and nothing else in this movie is even going near that.
And I kind of crapped on the green screen thing. I shouldn't, because it can be used as an effective storytelling, device. Just look at Zack Snyder's original 300.
Yeah, the green screen didn't bother me as much as just, once again, this movie...
But it felt like it relied on it for 90% of the shots.
I mean...
Which is a bit much.
I'm sure a Gargoyle Castle really doesn't exist, so they had...
No, I mean, I know. I'm talking about street shots when they're walking through the street.
I want some real gargoyles. And first of all, there are no gargoyles in this movie. Let me clarify. In order to be a gargoyle, you have to squirt water out of your mouth. That is the definition of a gargoyle. A grotesque is the statue that we usually refer to as a gargoyle. That's actually a grotesque. A gargoyle is the one that's used that has a stream of water that can come out its mouth that functions to get rainwater off of a building.
I'm glad you defined that.
There
for
were
our
no
audience.
gargoyles in this film. The Gargoyle Queen, unless there were scenes where she spit water out of her mouth, this film was wildly inaccurate.
Now, I spit up my beverage that I was drinking, my Diet Mountain Dew, because I was laughing
at this movie.
Because it was so bad.
Okay, well, here's the thing, and once again...
Jerry, there's a scene in this film where Aaron Eckhart is swinging metal rods on a mountaintop, and dramatic music is playing. and you know how... I get what they were going for. You know how when they stay with the shot for just like 15 seconds too long?
Yeah.
It reminded me of like a little kid going out in the backyard, like when my brothers and I would go out and play Power Rangers.
He was Star Wars kid.
Yeah, like he looked like Star Wars kid. That's a great analogy.
So, as I was thinking about this, and after we talked about the theater, I mean, I think a lot of times when we're going back to tone here a lot. I mean, I don't want to be beating a dead horse, but
well, this filmmaker did.
So when especially a movie like this, when there's so much special effects work, so much post production, so much green screening and things, I don't know that the actors always know what the tone's going to be. I mean, it's tough unless the director really conveys that to him. So here's Aaron Eckhart playing it seriously, and nothing else in the movie really fits.
Well, that's the director's job to tell him how to play.
And I even think, Bill Nye could have went either way. He could have went either way. I mean, I think
there's a scene we want to talk about with him and spoilers though.
But to me, I'm throwing this out here. If this movie had somebody in it, like, say, actor I love, Ron Perlman. Love Ron Perlman.
He would have fit this better.
He would have fit this movie. He probably would have brought a more lighter, kind of tongue-in-cheek tone to it that would have fit better.
Yes.
This was a really odd choice of movie. It's like, okay, is it trying to be serious and failing? Is it trying to be funny, entertaining, and failing? Once again, it feels like somebody who's like, oh, this is super serious, and it's just it's not. It's like someone trying to take a really goofy concept and make it serious. I mean, honestly, at times, it could have been almost like a Saturday Night Live sketch or something,
especially when he was swinging those sticks.
Honestly, it'd be like a joke. We always joke now these days about how everything's a gritty reboot. I mean, like how every movie is like this kind of...
Or the untold story.
Yeah, the untold story, a gritty reboot. It's like Frankenstein, and he's like training like in Batman Begins, and you're like, this just doesn't make sense.
Well, the movie didn't make much sense, and Aaron Eckhart didn't get much help in this film. And his supporting cast was not that great. I'm not going to harp on Bill Nye. He was okay. He wasn't bad. He wasn't great. But Jay Courtney... You talked about Channing Tatum being a block of wood, but Jay Courtney should not be cast in more than anything except like henchman number 1 or thug number 2. I mean, this guy. I'm sorry, I'm losing it. I've had enough of this guy.
Channing Tatum's a block of wood. He's like a pile of sawdust.
Yeah, that's right. I've had enough of this guy.
All his moves a lot.
Jay Courtney. They tried to pass the McClane torch to this guy. He completely botched it. And now, I never want to see this guy in a movie again. There's nothing to this guy at all. Okay, I'm sure, the women probably like him. Whatever.
Well, he might
be
a
on
nice
the cover
person
of Muscle and
in life.
Fitness or something. Which Aaron Eckhart was. He got ripped for this movie. He was on the cover of Muscle and Fitness for this.
Yeah, that was...
What?
I was going to say, one of the highlights of this film was when Aaron Eckhart took off his shirt and had all the Frankenstein stitches. But that sounds a little sketchy. So
that sounds a little homoerotic. But no, that's not what Jerry. I mean, when an actor takes on a physical toll to play a part, the way that Christian Bale gave to play an American Hustle or a Lost for the Machinist. Aaron Eckhart, he knew this wasn't going to be probably a masterpiece when he read the script. At least, God, I hope not, for his sake. He's still cashing in the Nolan royalties from The Dark Knight. However, I mean, it takes a lot of dedication because Aaron Eckhart was not traditionally this muscle-bound guy, but he got in fantastic shape for this film. And you got to... props to him for that, taking his craft that seriously.
I mean, he sold his part. The rest of the movie just didn't match up to it.
What about, I don't want to harp on Jay Courtney when there's a female counterpart in this movie, Yvonne Strahovski, Australian actress. I don't remember the character's name. I don't know if you do. She played the female lead, the scientist in this film. And Jerry, she didn't bring anything. She was cute, but she didn't bring...
I guess I didn't... I just didn't think much either way. I don't remember anything bad that she did, but it wasn't like a standout role. But, there wasn't much to work with.
No.
There wasn't a whole lot... I even felt that the movie could have been saved if Aaron Eckhart had more time to,
take his shirt off. I'm just kidding.
to verbalize or, to talk, interact more with characters and actually have a character, and that just didn't happen. So.
Well, Jerry,
Yeah.
I want us to have a little more to work with in this film. It'll be brief, but let's go ahead and roll the reel forward to spoilers for I, Frankenstein. Jerry, what's the big spoiler for I, Frankenstein?
So the big spoiler is the whole time I wondered if he would actually ever say, I, Frankenstein, throughout the movie. And so, like, every time there'd be, like, a random scene or a quiet moment, there were only, like, 5 people in the theater, and there were 2 people, like, up
and those
front.
were the only 5 people that saw the movie in the entire country.
And then there were somebody at the back, and there was Brad and I. And nobody complained or, shot Brad because he was laughing the whole movie. So I think we were okay. But I kept saying, I, Frankenstein, whenever he'd, like, do something random. At the end of the movie, he does literally say, I, Frankenstein.
Which is honestly, in all seriousness, one of the highlights of the film. If you want to call this
it was the titular line, and he nailed it.
As far as plot, in case you were wondering, yes, the gargoyles prevailed over the demons, and Frankenstein ended up with the girl.
Yeah.
Very stereotypical, cliche ending.
It really ended up with the girl? I mean, not really.
Not really. That's true.
So there is one thing that does pop up a little bit.
The promise. Can we talk about the promise?
Let's talk about the promise.
Quick?
So the reason Frankenstein, the monster, killed Victor Frankenstein was Victor had promised to make him a bride, make somebody like him, and never did. And so that's what, this movie is about him being alone and coming to realize, who he is. But there's also kind of a plot element that the demons really want to get a hold of Frankenstein. Bill Nye is like this prince of demons, and the reason he has all these scientists... Brad, it's not funny. Stop.
No, I'm thinking about... I just want to... There's an ending scene, the ending fight scene, the climatic fight scene with Bill Nye, who's like the head demon guy, and Aaron Eckhart.
He looked pretty cool when he demoned out, though.
He did. Can you describe it? It was Bill Nye holding up Aaron Eckhart, and Aaron Eckhart is just like flailing in his arms like a baby or something. Wasn't it the most awkward looking scene, Jerry?
I mean, literally, the only thing I like that could have made that scene any funnier was if they would have had like an old school 80s Arnold like thrashing about going, ah! Ah!
Like Total Recall.
Oh my gosh, that'd be hilarious. But so the reason the demons are interested in Frankenstein is once the demons are killed, they call it descending them. Once they're descended back to hell, they can't get back into human body. They can't get back into a body of any kind. But if a body doesn't have a soul, then the demons can enter it. And so, because Frankenstein's a created person, they
believe the demons can inherit his body.
And so they're trying to make all these an army of Frankensteins.
Yes, it's as bad as it sounds.
So,
But why weren't they able to do it though? Tell them that.
Because you find out that Frankenstein does have a soul.
Yes, he does.
He does have a soul, and I mean, there's some things in the movie that point to that. I mean, he starts making decisions that that are consider the needs of other people and stuff like that. He makes decisions to consider the needs of other people. He sort of sacrifices his chance to have a bride at one point to protect humans. He takes up this war.
They make him into this kind of anti-hero.
Yeah, there really could have been, and I actually would like to kind of read the graphic novel because
good luck finding. I cannot find it anywhere out there.
I'll have to hunt. It can be tough to find some of these sometimes. Like last year I reviewed the movie Bad Kids Go to Hell. I looked forever for that graphic novel. It's out of print. Finally found it at Comic City 2 in Madison, Tennessee. Finally found a copy there, strangely enough. So, anyways, I think there's a good story. I mean, there could have been a good story. Like, everything I'm watching about this movie, I'm like, this could have been good. And so, ultimately, if I were rating the movie...
Hold on. Hold your rating. Hold that to the very end. Before we get to the end, I just want to say...
We're not there yet.
I want to just kind of jump into what you were going to say before you were going to give your rating.
All right.
What makes it such a bad film to me is and I put this in my review, it's more sad than bad because they're with Aaron Eckhart as the right Frankenstein and with the right script and the right director. It's sad because instead of a very bad movie, this could have been a great film. There just wasn't much for Eckhart to work with. And it's kind of sad that, you know, I guess until the Daniel Radcliffe version comes out, this is kind of what this generation will in some way forget or associate with Frankenstein. At least in the short term.
I think everybody will forget about this movie before too long.
Now, they probably will, but still, it's just like such an iconic character, and that to put that name on it, attach the Frankenstein name to something that bad. It's
Let's be
almost
honest,
a
there's probably
disgrace.
hundreds of bad movies that have Frankenstein attached to them.
I know, but I don't know. This was a wide release. It's just sad to me. It could have been really a decent film, but we took a total crap on this movie. We laughed at it. We cracked jokes about it. But I just wanted to mention, besides Aaron Eckhart, who was okay in the movie, there was one thing I really enjoyed about the movie, and I thought it was scored fairly decent. I thought it had a good score. It was pretty well done. It was done by a gentleman named Reinhold Hill, who actually helped score one of my favorite films of, I believe, 2012, which was Cloud Atlas. And it was a fairly decent score in this film.
Hanks movie?
Yeah, the Tom Hanks
he's in
movie.
space, but not Apollo 13.
He's living different lives and stuff. A very good film by the Wachowski brothers. So, you know, there
just
was
the Wachowskis now.
Yeah, the Wachowskis now. Which, you know, that was at least a decent... I try not to take a total dump on everything, but... Okay, Jared.
Okay.
What is your rating? What do you confirm?
My rating for this movie is an which is above crap. For me to give a movie a crap rating, I mean, I really have to actively dislike it or be bored. Like
you're not bored, really.
I was not bored in this movie, but I was not enjoying it that much. So
he was enjoying me laughing every time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I would give it an Like,
it was a fun movie to sit there and hate watch.
Past this, but you know what? There's plenty of better movies to hate watch as well. Like, I'm not sure that I would ever watch this film again, but say if I were, like, going to somebody's house and they said, oh, you know, I'm planning on already hanging out with somebody, and they said, we're watching I, Frankenstein, I'm not going to leave. Okay. Like, if I plan to hang out with them. I would confirm this if you read my review at a crap. It was crap. It had a good score. Aaron Eckhart was okay. The thing I left this film wondering is this is one of the first movies. I saw Jack Ryan Shadow Recruit, posted a review. I saw Her, which was a 2013 movie. But this is the second 2014 film I saw. I saw Paranormal Activity, the marked one.
Yeah, he did. I missed that one because I was sick. But this was the second 2014 release I'd seen. And I left the theater thinking that at the end of this year, this could be the worst movie I see all year. And we see a lot of stuff, even if it's on... We see a ton in the theater. We see a ton on Netflix, Redbox, and just watch a ton of old movies for fun. But... Jerry, is there anything else you want to say about I, Frankenstein?
I, Frankenstein.
And on that note, I think that's just about going to wrap up this edition of the Confirmed Epic Podcast.
I'm Frankenstein.
Jerry, where can we find more of your stuff?
epicreview.com.
Make that thepicreview.com where you're always writing stuff.
Always, nonstop.
And your Flickr account, you got that going.
I haven't used it in a while, but I still have it.
So go out and check some old pics out there. You can always email us, thepicreview@gmail.com. As far as me, you can follow me on Twitter at TheRealBradBell, REEL Brad Bell. If you went to the site today, you notice we did something with Epic News. We're kind of going to try to streamline it. So instead of having several posts on Twitter, having several posts on Facebook, we're going to try to put your Epic News all in one big convenient article. So comment, give us suggestions. If there's something you want us to include, give us a shout out. But Jerry, it was great being back.
I missed it. I missed podcasting. I'm glad to be back in the swing of things, and looks like our next film, talk about, is probably going to be RoboCop mixed with some Lego Movie as well.
Yeah, well, I think we're debating right now. Maybe we'll do a full review for Lego Movie, maybe not. We're debating that, but for sure we'll have a RoboCop episode.
Absolutely.
So we're really looking forward to that. And until then,
stay out of trouble.
And we are out.